Hey, it's always fun to hang out with Craig. My apologies, Craig. Had lots of running around I had to do at the house tonight. A little bit of a crazy night, but I'm glad we're here. What's going on tonight?
It's Tuesday and we're getting through the week. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's just lots of appointments, lots of everything this week. It's been kind of
Yeah,
crazy, but
very busy.
yeah, definitely. I'm always really excited. Craig, I'm getting old. I like new stuff. I'm not saying I hate all the new stuff, but whenever we get some nostalgia going on, I get a little revved up, even though I didn't watch the particular program at the start. So this week, Craig, we're getting old. It's the 20th anniversary of the Hannah Montana show, the show that
Yeah.
introduces all the Miley Cyrus. Craig, I'm almost afraid to ask because you like some things I haven't liked in the past. Were you into Hannah Montana as a younger person?
No, and I was an adult when that came out, but no, I
Oh,
didn't watch it. Never really got into Disney, to be honest with you. The Disney programming, I did get into Nickelodeon, but I did not watch a lot of Disney programming, either growing up or as an adult. So Hannah Montana, yeah, I mean, I've seen a little bit here and there, but it's not something that I like sat down to watch or watched every episode or anything like that.
was it? I didn't see it either. Do we know what it was like when it first came out? Was it a kid show? Was it a little edgy? I mean, I think it was more of a teen show at the start, right?
Yeah, it's like a tweeny, I mean, a lot of those tween shows are kind of like, I don't know if I'd say they're edgy, but they might take some liberties with what age groups can watch them. Especially too, my wife and I have watched some of the Nickelodeon reruns on Netflix, like Victorious and iCarly and shows like that, where you watch them now and they're a little bit weird compared to when you watched them before. Not because you're an adult, but there's a lot of double entendres and innuendo and things like that are kind of thrown out there. And then of course the creator of the show, Dan Schneider, was accused of some things, and there's the big documentary on I think it's on Netflix, actually, maybe not, but the documentary about some of the behind the scenes issues. And it kind of gives it a little bit different meaning now. But yeah, I can't really tell you the tone. I know that what I've seen of Hannah Montana, it was very punny. It seemed innocent at the time, at the very least, but I haven't really watched it at all, so I'm not really sure if it was edgier than it maybe led to believe.
Well, it was kind of her kind of springboard to kind of, and when I say adult rules, I'm not talking about adult entertainment. I'm just saying she kind of grew up through
Yeah,
that show,
yeah,
where she went from a tweenie to kind of, playing more edgy stuff. Like I think about Wrecking Ball and some of the other stuff, and it's just
right.
kind of edgy for a while as a pop star. Did a little bit more edgier stuff as a movie star, and yeah, you didn't get that in Hannah Montana, but that kind of was her springboard, I guess. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I think a lot of the younger actors, things like that, they kind of gravitated toward being a little bit different than their on-screen personas, just because it seems like they were, wanting to play against types so they wouldn't be typecasted maybe moving forward as like the teeny bop stars. So a lot of the, Disney characters especially have kind of migrated to a little bit more riskier entertainment or whatever, taking on more risky roles so they can kind of feel like they're not being typecasted as a teen kid anymore.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. We've talked about this in the past too. What do you do with a program like that? Like, you always want stuff for network TV, but then on the other hand, your paywall is your streamers.
Yeah.
Um, I was kind of surprised it didn't have it airing on ABC, which was on Hulu and Disney. Now, Disney's, I would say maybe other than Netflix, if you have a streaming service, you have Disney. So, I mean, it was available to people. I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be. I was kind of surprised they didn't throw on ABC for an airing, but it's just on streaming for my ear.
Yeah, I think a lot of those, maybe with the exception of Everybody Loves Raymond reunion, a lot of the shows have been on streaming only, just because I think they want to feel like there's this is where you have to get it. You have to get the Disney Plus bundle, or you have to get HBO Max to watch a certain, reunion show. And I think that's kind of the goal there was, if we put it on ABC, then it might be popular. But honestly, though, I think it's probably better on the streamer because it was never on ABC to begin with. And I wondered if the audience would be there for it on TV, like on a cable channel, versus being on streaming, where you, like you said earlier, get that nostalgia. Maybe you grew up watching it. Now your daughter or your kids watch it, or whatever it may be. But yeah, I can see that there might be a larger audience for that, but I think it makes more sense on streaming because it's really a niche kind of episode and show in general.
Well, you kind of wonder anymore if TV, maybe TV's a sidelight. So, like, the thought wouldn't be, oh, we got to put it on ABC first because that's our big thing. The more ideas, like you said, how do you put on streaming? How do you put on the internet? And then maybe a couple weeks down the road, if ABC needs a fill in for an hour, maybe you throw it in there. But it's like we talked about in the journalism industry. Think web first, you know what I mean? And print, it's still important, but it's more of a secondary market. I kind of wonder if that's what we're thinking. TV, TV is almost like the print for newspapers. You put on the streamer first, then put on the network. If you have time or the room. So, I'm not a huge Hannah Montana guy. I mean, I have Disney. I don't know, Craig. There's so much to watch out there. I mean, not to say I would never watch it, but geez, Craig, there's like 50 other things I want to catch before then.
Right. There's so many options now, and like I said earlier, I never really got into a lot of the Disney shows. So with the exception of one or two, but really never got into like Hannah Montana or Wizards of Waverly Place, things like that. Just never. And those were the big star shows. It's Selena Gomez and Wizards, and you have, obviously the Hannah Montana show was a huge success as well for Miley Cyrus. But I don't know. I just never really got into Disney, never really cared for a lot of the shows on Disney, and still don't really care for a lot of that. And I think it's been hard to replicate a lot of that success for both Disney and Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon, especially with streaming, maybe they just don't really worry too much about the on-air programming anymore as much as they used to because of that.
I find, we were talking, you and I worked together at Gannett for a while. I was working from home most of the time. I found myself, like we would talk about, hey, I might just throw a bunch of Seinfeld reruns on all day or everything. I've kind of gone back and forth now. I'm working from home again. I kind of feel, though, that like I'm writing trending stories. So, stories people are clicking on. So I kind of find myself with trying to find a funny podcast that talks about current events. So something I enjoy, but in hearing current events talk all day, sometimes you're like, oh, wow, they're talking about it. Maybe I should write about it, So it's entertaining. Yeah. It's not like I'm doing it for work, but it kind of helps my workout too. That's kind of where I'm at and what I watch and listen to. Is there something you like having on or listen to when you're working from home?
Honestly, when I'm working from home, I actually tend to have like YouTube up, and I actually like listen to sports talk radio. So a lot of the sports talk down here, and I'm sure most in the country do this, but they simulcast on, YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. So honestly, I just kind of keep up with the sports world a little bit more down here. I'll have the news on, for a little while as well and get the local news angle, but and watch some of the afternoon news. But I think for the most part, I just kind of have background noise with radio, sports talk radio from Nashville.
I mostly listen to sports talk. It was interesting. Craig, I hate to admit this. I know the guy is kind of controversial, but I always found Imus in the Morning fascinating. That was a thing a while back. Don Imus died probably about 10 years ago. But I haven't listened to news talk radio. And, we're kind of doing that here for this podcast. Obviously, we're not on a major radio network or anything, but I was checking out, on my Facebook feed to get these videos. So you go for videos. they started throwing me this radio show. I think it was like Mojo in the morning. It's a radio show you can hear up in the Toledo and Detroit area.
Yeah. I used to listen to that when I worked in Fremont.
Well, here's the strange thing. I'm not ripping the Mojo in the morning show. They had segments, okay? So I thought those segments were strict to the Mojo in the morning. Like they would do second date stories. So they would talk to a couple that, went out on a date, or they would try to catch a cheater with like a War of the Roses game and stuff like that.
Right. Yep.
The crazy thing about it, Craig, and we talk about stuff that's happened in the newspaper industry. I think it's happened in the radio industry because I find it interesting. I actually watched a YouTube show, just get current event ideas. It was kind of entertaining. But then because I'm watching on YouTube, YouTube throws all this other stuff at you. So I'm getting these iStream radio morning shows from all over the country. Each of these radio shows are doing the exact same segments.
Yeah, it's gotten to that point, I think, where a lot of, and it's funny because Mojo in the Morning is a Detroit-based radio station through Kiss FM, but they ended up, whoever made the decision many, many, many years ago, they closed down the Toledo Kiss FM station more or less, or at least they absorbed the morning show and then had Mojo in the Morning take over that market. So they got rid of the morning show there, which was, a lot of, sad for a lot of people, and, kind of conglomerated it into this Detroit show. Now, again, it was entertaining and it's a good show, but it also kind of took away a lot from the localized version of it because it was less about Toledo and more about Detroit. So you didn't really get a whole lot of Toledo out of it, although they did migrate a couple of people over from the Toledo station. But yeah, it's a lot of this has become very syndicated. They actually, had some reductions in force there as well at the station, and they got rid of some people that were very popular on the station. So it's a very interesting time, like you said, especially for newspapers, but also radio. I mean, they've had a lot of turnover, changes, formatting changes that have happened, like you said, with a lot of these stations running the same bits over and over again. So it's not really unique to anybody in particular, but it's, probably just one of those things where it's sold to the radio station. Like, hey, here's the bit. It's going to be called Second Date Update. You're going to do it. They're going to, all the Kiss FM stations are going to do it. And then you've got War of the Roses that everybody's going to do. So it kind of takes away a little bit when you find out that all of the other stations more or less do the same bits. But admittedly, I did watch those and listen for those segments as well back when I was in Ohio working and being up in that Northwest Ohio area. I did check out, Mojo in the Morning quite a bit because that was, that was the one station where you could get a little bit of music, but you could also get some talk radio, which I enjoyed a little bit more of.
They got a YouTube page, so man, Craig, you might need to listen back up again. You never know.
I might, yeah.
It's entertaining. I'm saying nothing against them. I know morning radio, you've got to kind of walk that line between what's too edgy and what's not. So I guess the thought is if you give every morning show free reign to do everything, I don't think anybody's going to go old school Howard Stern on you, but maybe the fine line could get crossed over. So maybe their thought is, okay, War of the Roses, Second Date Update. Yeah, it's edgy, but we're not going to get sued over it. You got a little bit more control that way, just so you don't have stuff that goes over line, is my guess. But it is kind of weird.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, very strange. So, hey, we gave them a free plug. So, yay, Mojo in the Morning. Something else I'm seeing, Craig, just a bunch of interesting stuff, nothing overwhelming. You talk about nostalgia. Craig, there's some big news going on now. Tiger Woods. Craig, Tiger came out in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I was listening to talk about that this morning, which was, wow, it's just crazy. Tiger's missed a lot of time because of back injuries. He had the unfortunate scandal. A lot's going on in Tiger's life, but he's making his comeback tonight. Have you seen this TGL deal that ESPN's running? Tiger is making his return tonight. And I'm watching a clip of him hitting a shot on TGL. How about that?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of incredible to to think that it's the longevity of his career, and he's had a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, you mentioned the scandal and injuries have played a big factor in slowing down his career. But I think from the golf perspective, whether he's on Live or PGA or here TGL, like he is an attraction. No matter how good or bad he is at the sport at this point in his life. I think he's just still one of those major attractions for golf, and he will still draw a lot of eyeballs. And that's why you go to that well if you're ESPN. Honestly, it makes a lot of sense to do that.
Well, and he played for a really fancy golf simulator. It looks like he had a good shot. It's kind of hard to tell. I kind of wonder, this CGL thing was kind of PGA's way of just attracting the live crowd and trying to stop the golfers from all migrating over to live. Craig, there's a conspiracy theorist in me that's saying, well, why did they do it? Well, maybe they did it. I don't know. I mean, the increased live ratings. I mean, they announced it today. Hey, he's going to be back on this the golf league, and a lot more people are watching it. So maybe it's helping increase golf ratings to say he's coming back. I mean, I hope he comes back for more, but who knows?
Yeah, and I know that golf has obviously taken a strange turn over the last decade or so, with Live Golf being very popular, or at least money wise being popular. But Tiger was always a big anti-Live Golf guy, so I'm kind of interested to see how golf kind of evolves here over the next couple of years, because obviously Tiger Woods, whatever he puts his name on, or puts his affiliation with, it's going to be very popular.
Well, I may have misspoken. So Live, he is playing the golf league. Right. Apparently, he's anti-Live.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I don't think he would ever go. But with this TGL deal, he kind of championed it. From what I hear, it was kind of like his idea with PGA to say, "Hey, PGA can be cool. Let's try this. Let's see what happens." The other thing is, Tiger turns 50 this year, so he can actually play. They don't call it the senior tour; it's like the Legends Tour or something. There was talk that maybe he'll play a little bit on there. Down in Columbus, people are excited. I think it's like the U.S. Senior Open is actually in Columbus, so there's a possibility he might play in that. I don't know how much tickets are, Craig, but I might even try to check that out since I'm down there. So I don't know. There's a lot of intrigue there. Who knows?
I always wondered what he would do. Like, I mean, obviously when you watch him play as a young guy, you think he's going to be at that level forever. And then, of course, the injuries kind of derailed a lot of that ability. I always wondered if he would play on like the Legends Tour, the Senior Tour, because he was so dominant. Like, would he just like only want to play on the PGA Tour, and then when he couldn't do that anymore, maybe he would move on, or just not play anymore? Not that he needs to play anymore anyway, although I don't know what his financial situation is, but obviously, that's always a factor. But, I think he's probably good enough financially, even with divorce and all the things that he's probably had to deal with over the years. But, it's interesting to see if he'll play in the Legends Tour, though.
Well, the golf league. I mean, again, it's a golf simulator. You're hitting a shot, walking to a green. It's very limited practice. It'll be intriguing to see how it works up if when he has to walk around for a tournament. But I don't know, Craig. No matter what you think about Tiger, I know some people may be scared off about some of the stuff he was involved in, but man, he makes golf more interesting. It's like this LeBron thing. I don't have a problem with LeBron. I know some people don't like LeBron for his politics or whatever, but LeBron makes basketball more interesting. Tiger makes golf more interesting. So I would say, let's just enjoy it while we can. Hope it goes a while. I don't think Tiger's going to ever get back to his dominant phase. But, what was it, a couple years ago when he won the Masters, out of nowhere? It was a great weekend. And, it makes golf relevant. I'm not a huge golf guy, but man, Tiger Woods in a golf tournament, I'm a lot more apt to watch it. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, he's got the name recognition. No matter, who you are, you probably know Tiger Woods. And, Obviously, I haven't watched golf in the way I used to. I mean, I didn't really love watching golf anyway, but obviously I'd watch it a little bit every now and then. But I think a lot of it too is you just kind of lose track of the greats, if you will, and you just kind of move on. And Tiger Woods, though, is box office, so you want to kind of see what he's involved with, though.
Yeah, I used to buy a couple of the Tiger Woods golf games, and those were a lot of fun. Playing Tiger, let's bring back Tiger in the video game. I mean, that'd be fun. I have a Masters game for my Xbox One, and that's fun. You can play Jack Nicklaus and a couple other people, but man, bring me Tiger back. That'd be fun. I would enjoy that. Should be good. Speaking of nostalgia, and Craig, again, you know me, I'm in this nostalgia mood. I shouldn't like the guy because he plays for all of the Steelers rivals. But Joe Flacco made some news today. He's coming back. He signed I believe it's a $6 million 1-year contract for the Bengals. Obviously, he'll back up Joe Burrow. And again, he beat the Steelers last year. He played for all the rivals. But I'm pumped. I like the fact Joe Burrow's playing again. I mean, he'll back up Joe Burrow, but I like seeing Flacco in the NFL again. Am I crazy?
No, it's unique. I mean, he's 41 years old, and obviously he's beyond the age of a guy that would be counted upon to do something other than back up. But honestly, I mean, as backups go, he's got to be one of the better backups still in the league, because at least if he is thrust into duty, he seems pretty competent still to be able to sling the ball around. Now, he might, try to rely too much on arm talent, but he's always had that arm talent. So you kind of take that for what it is and, really just kind of accept that he's going to try to throw the ball in tight windows and squeeze pass in when maybe he doesn't need to. But, he's come off the bench in relief for the Browns and the Bengals, and he's been very competent. So I think it's a good move for Cincinnati, especially when you think about Joe Burrow, kind of getting hurt a lot in his career. You want to have a strong backup, and, they decided to move on from Jake Browning, and why not bring back Joe Flacco, knowing that you have a competent backup quarterback that can maybe come in and steal you a game or two because he's still relatively good enough.
Yeah, definitely. Hate talking about this because we usually post this a week later, but let me just make sure everyone's aware. We're taping this on March 24th. And speaking of 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, nobody knows if he's coming back or not. I just see a report here from Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. He's saying at the moment, again, March 24th, you never know when he'll sign or retire, but Rappaport saying the Steelers really don't know if he's going to come back for another year or not. I don't know, Craig. This is getting a little tiring for me.
Yeah, I think it's still kind of early, I guess, in the offseason. But if you're the Steelers, you probably need to know before the draft, right? Because, you might be picking in a situation in the first round where a quarterback like Ty Simpson could be available. Although, Dan Orlovsky said he loves Ty Simpson and thinks he's the best quarterback in the draft. But if you're the Steelers, you lose out on people like Kyler Murray. Now, I'm not saying that they were interested in Kyler Murray or Joe Flacco or anybody like that, but you're really losing out on potential bridge starters unless you trade for like Mac Jones. So, it's kind of another, I'm going to hold you hostage until I feel like deciding whether or not I want to play. And it's like, I understand the Steelers probably mentally have to be like, well, we could move on from this, and we have to think that it's possible. I'm sure they probably thought about this when Mike Tomlin moved on, is we could be going in a different direction at quarterback anyway, just because of Rodgers' age. But it'd definitely be nice if you're Pittsburgh to know what your quarterback wants to do, because there's a lot at stake for them. They went to a new coach, and now you're hoping that maybe he can get you over the hump when Mike Tomlin couldn't maybe the last several years. But you might be doing it with a rookie quarterback or a Mason Rudolph, and that would change things up quite a bit for the Steelers in their outlook going into the 2026 season.
Well, and I can still make the argument, in my opinion. I'm off screen now. That's on me. In my opinion, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best option out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not like super sweating it. I just look at it as if you get Aaron Rodgers back, he's another year, maybe. I mean, I don't think there's going to be that many more years in his tank. So I kind of look at it and say, look at the Browns. The Browns took what? They had like 50 different quarterbacks, and they're still looking for that franchise quarterback. I like the idea of Will Howard. I don't mind giving him a shot and everything, but you got him in the 6th round. Why not bring in other guys in to compete? And if Will Howard's the best, yeah, run him out there. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, to me that would make sense, but you never know. So,
yeah, I think if you don't have Rodgers, you might as well just go to Will Howard, because you kind of know like what Mason Rudolph is, or insert any other backup quarterback that you could find on the open market. Like, I feel like if you're gonna lose out on Rodgers and you don't get a chance at Kyler Murray or anybody else, Gardner Minshew's off the board, you might as well just go to Will Howard and see what you have, or draft Ty Simpson or another quarterback and say they're the guy. I mean, I just don't think there's, other than Mac Jones, I don't think there's a real trade asset that would upgrade over Will Howard. I mean, you could go for Will Levis, but I don't know that that's worth a trade. You might as well just see what Will Howard is. So I don't know. It's another difficult spot for Pittsburgh, because they're trying to figure out if they're going to be a competitor or not, and they probably want to compete. But this kind of feels like it could be a step back. Even if Rodgers comes back, it could be a step back for the Steelers.
Mac Jones is interesting. I hear rumors San Francisco doesn't want to trade him, and if they do trade him, they want a ton. And I don't know what a ton means. A ton's probably a little bit more than you think you would have to trade for Mac Jones. There was an interesting name, Garrett Nussmeier. He was supposedly going to be a really good quarterback for LSU. He had some injury trouble. It was interesting, though. He only threw for 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, because he was kind of banged up. He still played okay. They're saying he's healthy now. And apparently he has pro day the other day, and they say it looked pretty good. Mike McCarthy was at his pro day, and apparently Mike McCarthy with the Saints, when he was assistant there, he got to know Nussmeier's dad. I guess they coached together with the Saints. So people are adding 2 and 2 together, and it might be 7. I'm not saying he has to draft him, but there might be a possibility that a guy like that could be draftable in the 3rd or 4th round. The other thing, and I haven't heard this strictly with the Steelers, but Anthony Richardson's out there. He was traded. The Colts don't want to bring him back. I know Anthony Richardson's a huge question mark, but man, Craig, if I can get Anthony Richardson for a 4th round draft pick, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, I've got another guy in the stable. And again, I like Will Howard. I live here in Columbus. Will Howard lived in the area. He was really great down here. But again, you draft him in the 6th round. Like if you draft him in the 1st round, you got to play him. 6th round, let's just bring in a couple of guys. Let him duke it out. If Will Howard's the best, great. If Garrett Nussmeier or Anthony Richardson's the best, great. You know what I mean? Let's have a competition, see what we can do here.
Yeah. I mean, Richardson, he needs a really structured environment, like a team. But I also think he needs a team where he doesn't have to be under the microscope as you're playing this year. Like I think he'd be better served. I know the Vikings were interested. Like I guess Kevin O'Connell really liked him. Obviously, they went with Kyler Murray. But yeah, I don't know if I would be all in on Richardson to the Steelers, because if he has to play, he's going to show flashes, but he's also going to really, he's definitely going to give you a chance to maybe pick in the top 3 or 4 next year if you do that, because I think he's just not ready. And he's kind of an injury risk and concern as well. So I don't know that I would love Richardson to the Steelers unless Aaron Rodgers was coming back and he could sit behind Aaron Rodgers, and then you kind of figure it out from there if maybe he can be a guy moving forward.
And that's a quandary the Steelers face. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers comes back, they've got to take him. They're not going to shut him down. But the thought is, if you don't have Aaron Rodgers back, you try some young quarterbacks, Will Howard, Garrett Nussmeier, any of these other guys are available for draft. And if they do great, you've got your quarterback. And if they suck, you've got a really good draft pick and what's supposedly a really good year for quarterbacks.
There'd be quite a few quarterbacks, yeah. I mean, but that's what they said about this year too. So you never know. I don't know. I'm a little conflicted about this year's quarterback class. I like Fernando Mendoza. He's got some size and some ability, but I don't know. I don't know that there's an it factor for any of the quarterbacks in this year's draft. I think had he stayed healthy and maybe Penn State would have had a better season, Drew Aller might have been a top 5 caliber pick because of his size and arm strength, but now he's got a lot of question marks and decision-making question marks as well. But next year you've got the possibility of like an Arch Manning if he continues growth and development. But then again, there was a lot of people that were questioning Arch Manning after the first few games this year, wondering if he's actually a product of his name or if he's actually a product of talent. So we'll see how he continues his development. If he takes a big step forward, he's definitely going to be a number 1 caliber overall pick type of guy. But there's also other quarterbacks that could be in this class that might ascend to that level too. And there also might be quarterbacks that are highly rated and thought of that descend from that upper echelon of the draft. And, this is this year's quarterback class is a prime example with all these guys that were, there could have been 4 or 5 first-round pick quarterbacks depending on team needs, and now you might get 2, and then after that, it's kind of a crapshoot on when these other guys might go.
Well, I mean, Dante Moore was the big thing with Oregon. He didn't have the greatest year. I was surprised he went back to Oregon. I mean, he probably would have been top 5 if he went out. Arch Manning, a lot of people were saying, would Arch really come out? And it looks like, well, I mean, he didn't. I mean, it's not like it looks like he didn't. He actually didn't. But boy, I don't know. And you're right. I mean, I think at the beginning of this year, I was like, ooh, the 2026 draft class is going to be amazing for quarterbacks. And it wasn't. And maybe 2027 won't be. I mean, I guess you just have to see. I mean, the big keys is Arch Manning going to develop and is Dante Moore going to develop? If they both do, it's going to be fast.
It's always a crapshoot. You just don't know how these, from season to season, you would expect, Dante Moore to continue his, stellar play. But, is he going to be a product of the Oregon system, or is he a product of I make the Oregon system better because I'm here? Obviously, Oregon's had a good run of quarterbacks lately, and, it's a crapshoot when you get into these draft cycles because you assume so much about the quarterback class for 2026 that didn't pan out. Now you're starting to assume, well, the 2027 quarterback class will be so much better. I mean, you just never know. You never know if Arch Manning won't take that next step, or Dante Moore looks pedestrian, or someone gets hurt, or whatever it may be. There's so many different things that can happen that you can't count on it. So, but if you're the Steelers and you think, well, we've got to at least try to, if we're going to have to move on from Aaron Rodgers, I guess Anthony Richardson, there could be worse options than going after a high upside kind of guy like Richardson, to where you would know what he is after that season. And, I think the Steelers have done an okay job of putting some talent around the offense now. And, maybe it might be a good fit, a stable organization, a good quarterback coach like Mike McCarthy, who's been around Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, and has been around the block quite a bit. Maybe he'd be the perfect option, for a guy like Richardson.
Yeah, it's hard to say. See, we got a couple live viewers. If you want to throw in a comment, we'll try to answer a question or help you figure out this draft. It's hard to figure out what's going on with that. So, I don't know, to be honest with you. I do know I won't be at the draft. It's in Pittsburgh. I don't live too far away from Pittsburgh, but man, going to a draft live, Craig, I love the draft. People make fun of me because I remember Paul, a guy I podcast with later. We were actually at a concert that he wanted to go to, and he was making fun of me because I was elbowing him, showing him draft updates. The second round of the draft was on.
Yeah.
We were at this concert. He was making fun of me. He didn't like that. But man, going to the draft, Craig, that sounds awful. I mean, would you do that?
No, and they had the draft in Nashville like a year or two before I got here, but I mean, just massive humanity. I don't know that I would want to sit around, and I don't mind watching the draft or keeping up with it, even in the later rounds, but I don't know that I'd want to stand outside, whether it's cold, hot, or indifferent, for 5, 6, 7 hours a day for 3 days straight. That's very much real dedication if you think about it, but I can't do that. That's too much.
Well, I get with streaming, you could watch the coverage on your phone. I get that.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you want to just be at home and watch the coverage and just sit there? I mean, even if you got there early and you were in the front row, what? You get to boo Roger Goodell in person? I mean,
right.
That just sounds awful. And really, I mean, I'm not even sure if there's anything local. I mean, because, if you cover an NFL team, I mean, a lot of times the NFL team's not at the draft in person. So
they're not even there.
Why would you need to be there? I mean, you could probably cover from your home, log on to a chat and talk to the draft pick. I mean, it's very.
I think that's what a lot of. Now, maybe from the national perspective, you'd send like a national reporter, but on the local level, I don't think a lot of local coverage occurred at the draft, because when Cam Ward got drafted, well, what's the first thing Cam Ward's going to do? He's coming to Nashville for an introductory press conference. So it made more sense for, Nashville reporters to just sit tight and wait for them to introduce him as the number one pick. So, all that stuff you can get, his interview right after being drafted, his reaction, you can watch that and paraphrase that into your story. But the real story is from the local level, them coming home and, coming to their new home and actually, participating in some sort of a press conference or an event or whatever where there's media access. So it makes a lot more sense to just sit tight and be in your local market.
And a lot of teams, if the guy's available, they'll do a first night call, again, initial reaction from the kid. But like you said, them coming to the city is a bigger deal. I know from covering the Steelers, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll have the assistant coach, he'll be available, like whoever is the coach of that particular position will sit down and you'll do a call with them where they're like, oh, this is why we like this guy, whatever. Very strange. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it. We're getting to be about a month away.
Yeah.
Should be good. So I don't know.
Very excited. Yeah.
I like the setup you have. I'm sure you can't see us on the screen, but we're in horizontal and vertical. It's kind of thrown me off a little bit. I'm seeing two of you, Craig, but
there's two of us.
This helps make the editing easier, a little bit behind the scenes type stuff. Oh, anything we can promo, Craig? Anything going on that we should let people know about before we go?
Gonna get back at it with George. We had some issues last week, but we will get back at it. I know everybody's probably waiting for his big review of Project Hail Mary, which made a bunch of money over the weekend. And of course, we'll talk a little bit of Oscar cleanup as well, but we'll get back at it after having to take a week off.
Yeah, hearing a lot of good stuff about Project Hail Mary. I don't really check a lot of the current movies, but man, a lot of people that I wouldn't expect talk about movies. I mean, I saw some social chatter and other stuff too. So that's pretty good. I think we're having another podcast. As we were talking, one guy had to call off because of work, but assuming we have a podcast later, we're going to talk about the Steelers. Kind of a quiet time for them. They made a couple small moves we'll try to react to. And then let's see what else. Yeah, just talking some of the goofy stuff we talk about, food stuff. I guess there's a change to the waffle fries recipe that
Okay.
Chick-fil-A moved away from. Bucky's, there's some locations that got F rating they want to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
Five
awesome.
Guys change that customers are upset about. And the Duggars, that's become news. Another son got arrested, which
Oh.
is a sad story. You never watched what's it, like 19 kids and counting? I guess the number kept on going up. It was
Yeah.
family had lots of kids. How about that?
Yeah. That's a handful. That's two handfuls, three handfuls there. That's a lot.
Well, and they came from a Christian background, but they were in a very conservative Christian background.
Right.
And it just there's been some how do we say this? Some of the sons have been doing inappropriate things with people, which isn't good. And I don't know. It's a mess. What's going on there? I got a little frustrated. I felt like I got dragged along to a Duggar appearance. Craig, they were doing a tour at a
Okay.
local church that I went to, and it just I don't know, man. Live your life the way you want to live it, but touring because you have 20 kids in your family, it's
Right.
I don't know. They were trying to make it out to be, oh, look at us, look at what we're doing, and it was almost like a circus show. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
hate saying it. I'm not
Right.
saying probably mean, but I
Yeah. I
mean,
know what you mean though.
you
Yeah.
know, hey, we have 40 kids. Okay, well, that's not something to be proud of. It's more like, I don't know, but TLC, they love those shows. My wife was
Yeah.
questioning me about that. I'm like, yeah, they want a crazy story,
Right.
the pimple popper and all this other stuff. So you have a crazy story, you'll probably get a show on TLC.
Yeah. It seems like it, huh?
Yeah, I don't know, crazy stuff. Again, thanks for checking us out. We're trying something different. We went live, not just on the View from the Pew channel, but also Craig's channel. He's got some extra movie stuff. You can catch George on the Craig channel. So if you're on, subscribe. You got two things to subscribe to. Subscribe to me, subscribe to Craig's channel. I like this, Craig. We need to share more of this content directly in both channels.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm game for that. And on me with View from the Pew, there's a couple links that you can support us in what we're doing. We have daily content. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, just read through the description. There's a lot of daily content you can check out each day. And then my main job, this is again my passion project. My main job is I'm a reporter with the Plain Dealer in Cleveland.com. Hey, I can always use your clicks. So I got a link to my reporter page. Check it out. Click on my stories. Let me know what you think. For Craig, this is Chris. Thanks for checking us out and have a really good evening.